Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero. And if you are joining for the first time today, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here today because we're getting into some juicy stuff. And if you are a return listener, thank you so much. You know who you are. Okay, so today's guest is Dr. Anna Cabeca. She is an Emory University trained and board certified OBGYN, as well as board certified in Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine, as well as an expert in functional medicine and women's health. She specializes in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, as well as natural alternatives to successful menopause and age management medicine. She also serves as a consultant and trainer for other physicians in bioidentical hormone therapy, as well as functional medicine principles. She is the creator of the highly acclaimed virtual transformational programs called womensrestorativehealth.com and sexualcpr.com. So today I was excited because Anna came out with a vaginal cream called Julva, Julva, and it's pretty much joy for the vulva. So it's called Julva. And I tried this. And so we talk all about my experience with it because she was curious. And so I'm very open, as you know. So we talked all about this. And by the way, there's a special ingredient in this cream that I felt almost immediately. And so she talks all about the special ingredient that's in there. It's amazing. I love it. So we talk about that. We talk about ways of increasing oxytocin and also about self-pleasuring. And you guys know how much I love to talk about self-pleasure. So, and we both agree on it. And we both say that women just need to start doing it. Even if you have a partner, and especially if you're single. So we talk about that, as well as something that she calls a soul tie, which I've never really heard of that term before. And it's so fascinating how she explains it. And that is something that happens when you are intimate with someone else. So we jam on that. So that was fascinating. And as well as the vagina being the reflection of your GI tract. So lots to cover tonight. And we totally jammed on so many really cool topics. And I hope you enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today I have a very special guest, Dr. Anna Cabeca, women's health and hormone expert. Welcome, Anna Cabeca. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Margaret. Thank you. I'm excited to be here too.
Thank you. Yes. Tell us a little bit about what you currently do, because I'm so fascinated. I love, when practitioners are really focused on women's health and sensuality and sexuality, and that's exactly what you do. Tell us just a little bit about what that looks like now and how you are teaching women. I know you have a couple of new products out, which I'd love to discuss, and something I've personally just recently tried. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an OBGYN, board certified OBGYN, trained at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. My medical education was in osteopathic medicine, so I really had a hands-on empower the body to heal itself philosophy and then with Western training. Part of my journey and my own healing journey is that I traveled around the world, took a year off plus my practice, and traveled with my children and just went on this healing journey around the world, healing from, learning from traditional healers as well as some of the world's leaders in medicine that I was blessed to encounter. And that really created a functional medicine and integrative medicine integration into my medical practice and how I approach clients, enabling them to empower their own bodies to heal, attain hormone balance, revive their sex drive, and really importantly, reconnect in their relationship with themselves, their own feminine, as well as their spouse, as well as others, and the work they love as well. And so that kind of that's been my journey and my education along this process.
Wow. Okay, great. And I know that you currently have something that you just have out that's a sort of like a vaginal cream. Now, I did try this out last week when I was using my jade egg, in which I did put that on Instagram. And tell me a little bit about this, who it's for specifically. I like trying different things and different products. And when would someone use this? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so what you're referring to, I definitely want to hear what your experience was now, Margaret. So you're going to have to share that with us.
I will.
But so what Margaret's referring to for our listeners is my Julva cream, Julva. That is for a joyful vulva. It is a topical vulvar cosmetic cream that's going to restore moisture and elasticity, and really help this vulvar area of our body and penetrate deeper into the tissues. And we do see improved effects on vaginal moisture and vaginal strength and continence and all these other good things, as well as sensation and orgasm. So we're seeing those benefits as well. Where I was really frustrated in my career as a hormone expert prescribing bioidentical hormones is how few people really have access to it. And if they are blessed to have access to, a physician skilled in compounding, prescribing compounded or customizing bioidentical hormone therapy, they still may not be skilled in vaginal therapies. Well, vaginal therapies can only be obtained by prescription. But so I was frustrated by this because so many women, and as I lectured around the world, et cetera, we needed a solution that was topical, over the counter, could be applied to the vulva and get some really improved results for our vaginal health as well. And so that's what I spent the last, I've actually really started working on, I say the last 4 years in research and development of it for sure. But really since 2011, I had been working on a solution, which initially was a vaginal solution. And then I realized, well, if it's vaginal, it's only by prescription or it has to be an OTC drug classification. So not having the resources to do that, I had to come up with something else. And Julva, and it's even better than what I came up with initially. So I'm really excited. The combination of ingredients help really work together to seriously be anti-aging. So yeah, so that's the solution I created. And we are getting results from women from all ages, from mid-30s on through the late 70s. I have one woman who's 82 who just wrote me saying how it's improved her. Number one, she was getting up at night to use the bathroom. Plus, she just had irritation, just that sense of, we call it parchment paper skin of the vulva and the clitoral area, very uncomfortable. And she's just been getting amazing results. So I was so excited to see any age you can re-empower our pelvic, right? Our pelvic, our feminine, our lady bits. And I think that's so important to let people know about that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you about my experience with this. So I tried it out and I don't have vaginal dryness. And I thought, well, maybe I could use this as just as a lubricant to replace the lubricant that I currently use, just because I just wanted to see how it absorbed and all of that. So I tried it out. I will say it was not greasy. It wasn't sticky. It wasn't anything like that. It was really, it felt really velvety, smooth when it went on. And I had no, I mean, and it, you know what, I'm trying to think if it actually created more. I actually did use it during a self-pleasuring session when I was home one morning. And I will say that there was some heightened sensations, to be honest with you. Now, I was using my jade egg, but I've used the jade egg before during self-pleasuring. But there was something different. I will admit that. There was something different. This wasn't just like me putting on lube. There was something different about it. And I thought, okay, I need to know what's in here exactly. I mean, I know there's ingredients there, but what did you put in there that actually could heighten sensation or even bring about orgasm easily?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're hearing that back from many, many clients and super excited, especially women who actually, because of vaginal dryness, haven't been able to have sex or have had, even younger women too, who have had difficulty with orgasm, being able to use this cream as part of foreplay and massage it into the labia and clitoris and really get a beautiful climax. And so we say, I like to define orgasm versus climax. Climax is the pinnacle, but orgasm is the entire experience. So I like to differentiate, sex is not a loss if you haven't had a climax, right? Enjoy the experiments. And really, the more we give into that experience, Margaret, don't you agree? The easier it is to climax, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And so a little differentiation. But as far as the ingredients go for Julva, one of the bioidentical hormones that I use that is available over the counter is DHEA. DHEA is an androgen hormone. It is a precursor. It's predominantly produced by our adrenal glands in both men and women, and our ovaries in women and testes in men. And so it starts declining in our mid to late 20s and steeply declines in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, and thereafter. So often we can safely supplement absolutely with some DHEA. But in addition to that, because it's so important that I wanted this cream to moisturize deeply, penetrating into the underlying tissue as well.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I included a beautiful, and also to improve the resilience, the healthy cells of the vulva and, the surrounding tissue. Because number one, what happens when we get older? We get incontinence, we get anal fissures, we get hemorrhoids. And so we need to improve the tissue itself. We need to improve the way it feels and its elasticity, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that when we're seeing wrinkles or thinning of the underlying, the fatty area underneath, that we're losing strength. And so ingredients that help rebuild that, nourish that area are incredibly important. So I added plant stem cells from the alpine rose, which is really to search low and high for this, because the alpine rose grows, in the Swiss Alps, and it is this beautiful rose that you see in the midst of a snow-covered mountain, right? So it's like scientists investigated what makes this so resilient, what makes this rose overcome such harsh conditions. And so we've extracted plant stem cells from it and found it to be a crucial ingredient, anti-aging, and has some other beneficial qualities as well. And then also in my, wanting this to be able to be used as a lubricant or as part of foreplay, I wanted also ingredients that were nourishing as well. And so adding in coconut oil, shea butter, and emu oil, this combination really, when I would write a prescription for vaginal hormones, I would always have my bioidentical hormones wedded in emu oil, because that really is nurturing, soothing, and helps bring a greater depth to the moisturizing properties of the combination as well.
Oh, great. Yeah, it didn't feel, it I felt like it fully absorbed. It didn't leave like some oily residue, or it didn't get on, the sheets or panties and left a stain. Like it didn't any of that. None of
Exactly.
that stuff, which,
It's so,
yeah,
yeah. Because, when we compound a cream or a suppository, and then you have leakage throughout the day. So I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want anyone to do
right,
something I'm not willing to do, number one, right? And certainly if I couldn't get these great results that I'm getting with Julva, I mean, still, clients can move on to bioidentical vaginal suppositories and combinations as well. But I wanted something that really that you got that effect without having a discharge, without having to wear a panty liner, unless
right,
it's just from your own natural moisture,
right.
that's now coming, that's being reproduced, which is so nice to see. That's healthy, that's lubricating, that's, it's doing, our vaginal moisture is important because it does its job.
Right. Yeah. So I thought it was really nice. And the fact that, the sensations that I did get, they were definitely more heightened than usual. So I have to add that in as a plug, because that definitely happened without, sometimes when you use just lubrication by itself, obviously it doesn't have any of those properties in it, but then you're kind of left with it maybe possibly coming out. There's, it stains,
Mm-hmm.
it's sticky. And this was none of that, which I found was really nice. So I loved it.
So glad. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah.
Sure. So tell us a little bit about this. I also see that here that you have a course called Women's Sexual CPR.
Yes. Yeah. So, like one thing it's never when it comes to sexual health and desire. Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be easy if it could be in a pill, right? But that's not the case, or one solution. There's multiple aspects. So, in part of my own healing journey, I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder after a very traumatic experience in our family where, it just devastated us wholeheartedly, devastated us. We lost our son in a terrible accident.
Mm.
And so that kind of spurred on my own healing journey. What I
Mm.
didn't recognize at the time, as I learned the keys to healing body and mind, um, and that's, I'm working to help my clients also recover physical health. I recognize that relational health, the connection between stress, post-traumatic stress, and everyday stress led to a cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and oxytocin, which is our love and bonding hormone, disconnect. So it led to a cortisol oxytocin disconnect. So hence, like, it's a burnout in the relationship. And that's a physiological experience, a physiological phenomena that often is thought to be solely relational. And so it led me to really look at that and look at why we disconnect in relationship and how to reconnect, and also just how to get our desire back. So I always hear from clients, I love my husband, but I just don't want to have sex. And so I looked into that. So I started this beautiful program, and it starts with a 911 call, right? Help, I need help. So it starts with that in a very fun way. And it's really an awesome, wholesome course. And we do a 3-page discovery worksheet that it's all automated now online. And so you can start from the privacy of your own home and go through this journey where you really work to uncover what could be holding you back, whether it's physical, whether it's medical. I mean, many women don't realize that antihistamine can cause them to have diminished orgasms.
Mm-hmm.
So birth control pills are blunting their desire. And so there's some key things, but there are many levels. There's 7 key levels that I go through with clients in this program. And then also getting them teaching about understanding your hormones, understanding orgasm and oxytocin, understanding our anatomy, and some other fun aspects in there as well that just, this course really is amazing. And I've been teaching it. It's now been live for 5 years, and we just continue to get rave reviews about
Great.
the course. So yeah, so about reviving our sexuality again, that feminine energy, with or without a partner. It's a great program.
So, and do you in this program also encourage women to self-pleasure? Is that one of the tools you use?
That is one, yes.
Do you find that there's resistance with that?
I have not found there's resistance with it from all the women I've taught and all the courses that I've taught. I have not found that. And I was anticipating that I would, but I think the way that it's explained and it's natural, and I really discussed the body's designed for pleasure and just how our anatomy, is designed, how our nervous system's designed to kind of what I call it reboot itself sometimes. And that's an important aspect. And we are designed for physical touch. And so I think the way you say it, self-pleasure, is a beautiful way.
I agree. Yeah. Self-pleasure is not only something that's part of my personal life, but it's also something that I highly encourage for women, whether they're coupled or singles. If they're not having any intercourse with another person, that they can actually have this as a practice and make it a really beautiful time where they just set aside time, whether you're going to do it a couple of times a week maybe, or on the weekend, or sometime when you have there's just some free space where you're not really rushing, and kind of making it a really sort of a beautiful offering for yourself. And whether that can be using either just manually your hands or having a toy of some kind, not necessarily using vibration, because sometimes that can
absolutely numb the experience.
Right. So that's something I definitely am. I prefer women to be able to do this. And I think a lot of women feel shame around that. That's why I asked you that, because they feel shame that it's something that's bad, that you really shouldn't be doing, or that maybe they were brought up with a certain belief that masturbation, which I don't really like using that word, masturbation is somehow a bad thing. So I'm really trying to break that cycle. And I don't know if you've seen that, if you've seen women sort of being shamed in the past of self-pleasuring, or that being sort of a bad thing.
I think that's definitely a potential, and it certainly is an area where many women can be conflicted. And, I would say, God designed our bodies for pleasure, and there's no question in my mind about that. And yet, reawakening our senses, and what do we consider healthy versus not healthy? Self-pleasure is a healthy practice, and can be, right? It also allows you to discover, for your intimacy with your spouse, what you can communicate works well for you, what you like and what you don't like. So it's a self-discovery process. There's no area on your body that's not, in a woman's body, that's not pleasurable. It'd be behind the neck, right? Massaging the earlobes. Different things can be very pleasurable as well. And it can be beneficial. If nipple stimulation for some is pleasurable, for others it's not pleasurable. Mm-hmm. But that's often something that's not communicated. And the mate might think, oh, well, I think nipple stim is pleasurable, but she may not like it at all. And she'll never communicate that or be afraid to. And then she's not enjoying having intercourse. Hence, she doesn't want to have intimacy. So we have to look at that, discover it, but also be able to use our voice. And within sexual CPR, we go over fire breath orgasm, we go over orgasmic meditation, and some practices like that couples have found to be amazing. And so, I do think the exploration of your own awareness of this temple of our spirit, awareness of the beauty of it and all aspect of it is wholesome. We as spirits reside within this gorgeous temple. And so becoming aware of its beauty is important. And this is a problem most women have, is finding themselves being at home in their body. I mean, I'm there with you. Anyone who's listening that have had trouble, I'm there with you. But if we have trouble finding being at home in our body or finding pleasure in it, that does move into other aspects of our life, then what are we designed to have pleasure in? Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying here?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So I want to give permission for acknowledging the beauty of your body and what it's capable of. I think that's really important.
I think super important. I think that there's a lot of women who do not like their bodies, and a lot of women who do
True.
not like their vagina, their vulva, to the utmost degree. And having women sort of coming back to sort of owning the beauty, the sacredness of their bodies, and seeing that as a temple, like what you were saying, I think is so key. Because if not, you're so disconnected from that part of you, which is where we hold our intuition and just so many things.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. And the fact that, we've seen vulvar surgeries rise over 100% in the last 1 or 2 decades. I mean, it's been a tremendous rise. It's unnecessary and it can be detrimental. So what I want to do is empower women to love themselves. And one of the videos that I teach on, that I kind of go through on my Julva page is, where is your vulva, right? And making the analogy with an exotic orchid. I mean, seriously, Margaret, don't you agree? An orchid looks like the vulva. Mm-hmm. It's got labia, outer and inner labia. It has a little clitoral hood. There's a hymenal ring. I mean, it is all, the perineal body is even there. I mean, and you look at one orchid flower to another, they're different and all beautiful. So I want women to understand that too but keeping the tissue healthy is important. And so that's where, unfortunately, as we age, and especially because we've been wearing toxic pads and, there's chemicals from detergent and our clothing are treated with stuff. And, this affects the delicate tissue of the vulva. So I'm seeing more and more women with atrophic vulvar and vaginal symptoms, as well as changes to the skin that aren't healthy. And that includes becoming susceptible to herpes, warts, lichen sclerosis, vulvodynia, vestibulitis, pain disorders. And so we want to keep that tissue healthy and resilient, especially as we get older. I'm 50 with an 8-year-old, so I've got a long time to go with this child, right? And I got to stay healthy. But looking at women my age too, with parents, my dad's 91, but and thankfully he is still out and mobile. But the number one reason families decide to put their elders that they love in a nursing home or assisted care facility is because of incontinence. And you know what? I don't need to give my children any excuse to do that. I do not. So, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So pelvic floor exercises, keeping the tissue healthy, being aware, keeping the nerve and blood supply healthy, and self-pleasuring does do that too.
So does orgasm help? Let's say you're someone that has several orgasms a week. Does that lead to avoiding incontinence later in life? That in itself?
As far as orgasm and incontinence, I'm not aware, but I do know like orgasm and intimacy increases oxytocin. Oxytocin, hugely anti-aging hormone. Really, I call it the crowning hormone, has been shown to improve muscle and regenerate muscle. So I'm going to just say it can't hurt for sure. And, I'm not aware of any studies or research that have looked into that. But oxytocin in general has so many benefits. And that's one of the things I go through in sexual CPR, the key benefits and how to stimulate your body's natural oxytocin, and many other ways than sexual pleasure, but certainly that's one of them. But definitely increasing the strengthening the muscle floor, doing exercises, be conscientious, not sitting all the time, many things that can help strengthen the pelvic floor. And we have to practice. Mm-hmm.
Do you do jade egg practices at all, or, weighted to help with strengthening?
So weighted balls I think are great. The jade eggs, I've used Lilo balls in my practice. And one of the things, but I think jade eggs are just wonderful because you have the benefits of the stone. the healing component there, especially for women who have issues with pain, and the beauty of jade eggs too, because you can heat or cool, and that can be very beneficial as well to the vaginal floor and the muscles, etc. So I think it's really, really helpful to do that. And I do recommend it to be incorporated into the practice, and like not to wait until we have incontinence or symptoms, but to, make it part of your practice. How often do you recommend women in general, not if they're dealing with incontinence, to use jade eggs, Margaret?
I say when you can use it, I mean, it depends on what you're doing with it. If you're actually suspending a weight from it, that's something that I would say maybe a couple times a week to do that. If you are just putting in the jade egg and you're kind of working and walking around, I mean, you can do that any day of the week, or you can wait to see when your body actually is sort of requesting it, because there is definitely a time when I actually want the jade egg and other times when I just don't want it. So I have women just sort of listen to their intuition. They start working with the jade egg, and do you feel called to work with your jade egg today or this morning? Do you want to? And you sort of ask the egg. To be honest with you, that's how I connect. I'm very connected to my jade egg, and I will ask, sort of just not out loud necessarily, but do you feel like using the egg today? And some days yes, and some days no. And so that's how many. I just allow my body to sort of ask for it, and if that's once a week, if that's 4 times a week, then that's okay. A quick break in the show to let you know of an upcoming virtual retreat with me called Overcoming Burnout, Sensual Living for the Highly Empowered Woman. So picture this: candles lit, you are in your most comfortable jammies, maybe a chai tea or a glass of champagne. Let's get cozy and explore the world of sensuality, the stuff your mother never taught you. Learn how to drop into your feminine, enhance your health, and be the hottest thing on the block. It's like we're just hanging out as girlfriends, just hanging out at home, talking about the juiciest topics. End result? You'll know what it means to be an embodied, sensual woman. So are you ready, sister? Have I seduced you into my bedroom for a 3-hour session? I hope so. The link is below, but you can also find it at margaretromero.com/virtual retreat. It's going to be April 8th from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I so look forward to meeting you virtually and spending some time showing you the world of sensuality. I'm also offering an optional sensual starter kit, which is a selection of the most decadent sensual treats to satisfy and titillate all of your senses. A collection of my most favorite goodies for your ultimate pleasure. I wanted to go back to your what you said about oxytocin, and you said there were other ways to generate oxytocin other than sex. Could you give us a couple of other ways that women can sort of build that oxytocin?
Yeah, definitely. So hugging, for sure, hugging and kissing. And, there's other things. Generosity, giving increases oxytocin. Seriously, we say the benefits are in the giver, right? There's certainly the person receiving a gift, what huge benefits, but really the benefits are in the giver. So that is increasing our oxytocin by giving. And so that's a really beautiful thing. One of the situations where our oxytocin is highest is in childbirth, when we are delivering our child. So many women will say, oh, I've never heard of oxytocin, but maybe you've heard of Pitocin. Pitocin is oxytocin IV that we're giving during childbirth to increase the strength of the uterine contractions so that you have a quicker labor to kind of speed up the labor curve, or, there are a few other reasons. But we produce that naturally as well during that time. And when we are suckling, when our baby is nursing, that's oxytocin. Again, what is that doing physiologically? That is connecting us, cementing this baby in us. And it's also a natural pain reliever. That's why women do not really remember the pain of childbirth. So that's the beautiful way of oxytocin. But you don't have to have a baby to have oxytocin. Like I said, giving is a way. In a wedding, attending a wedding, or being a bride, high oxytocin. The mother of the bride has absolutely the next to the highest oxytocin levels. So those environments where you're loving and laughing and connecting with other people, social aspects are really huge. And brings me to a tangent, Margaret, if I may. We've learned from the Italian culture and the research into red wines that resveratrol is this great antioxidant properties. And this is a key reason why there's longevity in Mediterranean lifestyles. But I completely argue that point. We know that there's adversity to alcohol on a daily basis as well. So there's some genetic SNPs that are involved for sure. But is it the resveratrol in the red wine, seriously, or is it that there's connection, laughter, a table of friends and family that's part of the culture? The social aspects, healthy social community is a marker for longevity. Marriage is a marker for longevity. And so those are, oxytocin increasing benefits or producers. I mean, those things increase oxytocin. And then, things that you enjoy, like if you're enjoying shopping, if you're enjoying an outlet that brings you pleasure, enjoying a beautiful sunset and really relishing and enjoying it where you're feeling happy and connected, that's increasing your oxytocin levels as well. Playing with an animal, oh my gosh, we know about pet therapy. That increases oxytocin.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
And what about, have you ever given a compounded oxytocin?
I absolutely have. Yes. I don't know if you do that in your practice, and there is controversy over it. I do teach whole lectures on this aspect, just on the safeties of oxytocin prescribing. I initially started using it to help with sexual function and orgasm. But then I started using it in clients who had autism, depression, PTSD, burnout, and always testing before I would administer it, but really found some tremendous benefits with oxytocin administration for that. Really variable for orgasm, not consistent at all. But for people who have had chronic adrenal hypofunction or low cortisol levels, resulting low cortisol levels, seem to really benefit from oxytocin. And so part of my practice and part of sexual CPR is really kind of bringing that to light and incorporating the practices that improve that, and also releasing practices that are not serving you, and having the conversation with ourselves as well as others that may need to be part of that conversation, but predominantly with ourselves, and really teaching women to love themselves, love their body, and to recognize that however bad you're feeling, you have the power to do a lot of healing. So I do want to emphasize that for sure.
What would be the downside? You said there were some downsides to using it.
Well, I mean, you have to really consider that oxytocin is very, very safe. I mean, we give it at pretty high concentrations intravenously, and we're not aware of any negative side effects that it has. But that has not honestly been studied over the long haul to look at how intravenous oxytocin may or may not affect, mom long-term or baby long-term. So we really don't know, but we assume that it's, for generations that we've been using it now, that there's a certain level of safety with it. So, but oxytocin can negatively feed back to the brain to say, okay, don't produce more oxytocin, or, and that would signal the paraventricular nucleus to negatively inhibit its own natural production of oxytocin. So that's true with any hormone that we give. We have the potential to tell your body to shut off its natural production. So that's why when we're doing bioidentical hormones, we're always using it in cases where there's a deficit, but also from the functional medicine side, getting our glands to be re-empowered, improving our detoxification system so that we're using what our body has available, plus encouraging our body to produce more. That's key. And then we supplement on top of that as needed to create a more physiologic balance, because we do not live in a natural society. And that's part of that picture.
And so you've also said that you don't really see it consistently with helping to increase orgasm, because that's how I've been prescribing it for women. And what's the dose that you've used for women to help, let's say, for women who are anorgasmic?
Yeah. So anywhere from 20 IUs up to 50 IUs, 30 minutes before intercourse. And I typically would do it in a sublingual lozenge or a buccal troche. And that's the predominant way. That buccal troche can also be inserted vaginally.
Oh, okay.
Now, we have not tried oxytocin vaginal in combination with Julva topical, but you'll have to try that and let me know.
Yes.
It sounds like a great combination, though.
It does, actually. Yeah. It does. I've never actually had anyone put it in vaginally. They usually take it as a pill before intercourse, about a half an hour before. Let's see what else.
I prefer not to use the pills because of the metabolism. I prefer the sublingual or the troches. Definitely get better results with those.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And is it something where you have to start low and then increase, or can you just start at like 40 IUs?
It depends. I tend to say start low because, some people really need very little and some people need a bit more. So that's the other reason that I like the troches, because you can cut them. And so, if you did 100 IU troche, you can cut that into 4 pieces or more. And that becomes more economical, number one. Number two, they can just use, a quarter of a troche, a 25 IU to start to try that. And then if they needed the other 25, they could. But the other thing is they could also further cut the quarter into half or so. So that's one of the reasons that I also like the troches.
So interesting question. So this is a question that I've gotten before from a couple of patients who were single women in their 40s, and they had some issues orgasming. So I put them on the oxytocin, and their question was, well, what if I'm on a date and they have sex that night, and they were afraid that they were going to get attached to this guy that they may or may not necessarily want to date for long. Did you see that as something that was happening aside from orgasm ability from the oxytocin? Were they becoming attached to these men that they were with?
So that's a great question. And I think I would address that in 2 things. Number one, if you're, the question is, gosh, there's so many levels to address this. First, let me answer your question in that no, I don't anticipate that to be a big factor in connecting to the wrong mate. I think the entire process of being intimate with someone naturally increases our own oxytocin, and that does bind us for at least 2 weeks, right? Physiologically, from time of ovulation to the time of from the time of ovulation, which would then be within their conception naturally to the time our period. I mean, physiologically, that's how oxytocin was designed. And for women, it will maintain a slower half-life in women than men, supposedly. And so there's that interesting binding that occurs from intimacy. But yet there's another aspect, from the biblical perspective, we create soul ties. And not to go deep into that here, but what is a soul tie? When we are connected with someone, we are swapping microbiome. I am telling you, we are swapping microbiome.
Right.
We know that one kiss is going to transfer over 200 billion organisms. I mean, some crazy number like that, right? One kiss is going to transfer that much. And all all our body fluids contain aspects of our microbiome, and especially our vaginal fluids, especially semen, et cetera. So like I tell, one of the things that I tell, I coach a single moms group is we talk about, who do we want to swap our microbiome with? I mean, seriously, because there's that connection, whether it's a soul tie or not a soul tie. Where exactly does the microbiome, what does that swapping microbiome translate to? Yes, it may be eliminated from our bodies very quickly and our digestive enzymes and et cetera. But I think we need to think there's an intimacy, there's a connection with that. And there's also that, here's my motherly advice to women is that if it's not if it's not someone that you want to be with, get them out of the way. So there could be space for someone who you do want to be with. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's that motherly advice as a mom of four girls and a single mom myself, that important advice. What we do our physiology is designed to create these connections. And if we know that's not someone that we really want to be connected with, don't go there. Don't challenge your physiology. That's my pulpit for today, ladies.
No, thank you for that. Yes, I think that's true. I mean, because I feel that intercourse is a sacred practice. I think it should be seen as such. And granted, I'm all for women who are just sort of, single and they're just having fun. But I just feel like there's definitely connections that are made in such a deeper level. And when you say soul tie, and aside from the microbiome, can you go a little further into that? And you can get as woo as you want here, because that's kind of what we're all about too. Well, yeah, absolutely. So, really, when it comes to, biblically, we're told that, we create a soul tie through sexual intimacy with our partner. And I dig into biblical references. I've studied many different spiritual references, but really, my end all be all is biblical. And so what I look for is understanding the truths translated from then to now and try to get to the bottom of it. So if our bodies, when we connect with someone, we're swapping microbiome, our hormone physiology is designed for lasting connection with this person till the time we recognize that we're pregnant, right, or not, and that there's a evolutionary and physical and deeper emotional connection to this. Now, we are not just physical bodies. We know that everyone listening on this call knows that they have, this spiritual body within them, this energetic body within them. Our hormones are energetic molecules, and they have power beyond our physical form. So if I'm in a loving emotional state, my partner is going to sense that loving emotional state. If you're in a hot, turned on state, you are going to radiate that turned on state. That's an energetic transmission from your body to someone else's body, right? And that is tangible. You can almost touch it, but there's nothing there to touch. That is, what we're creating. And it's beautiful because really, say women are the greatest influencers, in biblical times as well as now and today. The saying, modern day saying is behind every man, behind every good man, there's a good woman. And so, however you want to take that, but we have incredible ability to influence our society, our culture, our generations that follow as women. And so being whole, being strong, protecting our mind, our eyes, our physical space as well is an important part of that versus, giving part of our energy, our essence, away, so to speak, or to someone we don't care about. And the same thing, giving your energy to a cause that you have no heart for is a waste of your time. Mm-hmm. Why do we want to waste our energy and our time on something like that?
But this flip side is the way our physiology comes about. As women, we connect, we have sexual intimacy, we get oxytocin, we get some, wherever the microbiome swap comes in here, y'all, there needs to be a lot more research on this. But we all of a sudden start to believe this person could be good for us. We believe this person could fit into our life. We believe that, oh, well, I can accept, or I can compromise, or I can, deal with this. And, so you're playing tricks. We are playing a game that is really destructive to ourselves in many ways until we wake out, come out of this physiologic experience. We're like, what was I thinking? Has anyone on this call ever said that to themselves? What was I thinking? Experience. And you can say, oh, that was physiology. And then you start to really, as I did, I start to really guard that. Guard with discernment, really understanding the practice of discernment. Is this an action? Am I moving towards love, or am I moving towards fear? Like, is this a fear-based action or a love-based action? Is the reasons, maybe I'm giving my time to this cause, is that because I love this cause, or is that because I fear they won't include me in the next charitable event, or I fear that I'm not a participant in society because I'm not contributing to this event? You know what I mean? What is the reason for it? And that leads me to like our end of day, kind of my end of day checklist is where I look and say, where did I see love today? Where could I have been more loving today? Or, for me, it's like, where did I see the face of God today? And what have I done that was loving today and contributing today? And where could I have been more loving today? And so that's kind of my end of day checklist there, because I want to be so highly attuned to love, to God, to that kind of divinity within ourselves and the divinity of God above, that's what people see, and that's what I see in others. I want to get to that place that I see that divine love in others, that I treat people with that love, kindness, and respect, respecting them as well as respecting myself, respecting my boundaries, and holding true to that, and in a direction that is love-based and not fear-based.
Yeah, so true. I totally agree. Definitely. Let's see. Oh, wow. We're already coming down to the hour here. But even when you're talking about swapping microbiome, it sounds really gross.
I know. So true, isn't it? Oh my gosh. I know.
When you just think about that, it's...
But there's no other way to say it. There really isn't. And I've been looking at the microbiome. I've been studying it, as an ardent scientist, right? I was a scientist before I ever went to medical school. And as an ardent scientist, look at the research beyond the, breaking of the genetic code. We know that we've got about the same number of genes as an earthworm, for heaven's sake. So, what makes us different is our microbiome, the intelligence of the microbiome. So now as we really begin to understand, we've shifted. Functional medicine was right on top of it, and is part of this really, really huge shift in medicine, saying, let's preserve the gut bacteria. Let's improve the bacteria. Well, let me tell you, the vagina is a reflection of the GI tract, right? I can tell a lot from, like I would say, gynecologist, we can tell a lot from women's health from the vagina, right? If that's not healthy, there's no way the intestinal tracts are healthy per se. We've got issues, right? And so in an effort to really help women completely have great health, it really took me to understanding the microbiome and that part of our bodies, and the influence of it on our neurotransmitters, on our hormones, on our immune system. It's hugely connected. So preserving the health of our microbiome is really, really important.
Have you also noticed that women, because I've seen this also, where women will come to me and they have a new partner. It's very new, and they've been having just like these recurrent vaginal issues, whether they've got BV, bacterial vaginosis, or new onset yeast, and they're like, I've never had this many issues and have all this discharge, and I'm not sure what's going on. Do you find that a woman's body knows if the person, I don't know, I don't know how to say this exactly for it to come across correctly, but I have
Like
seen,
if it's good for them or not?
yes, the individual, the man, is not a good match, or there's something off, that the vagina is kind of reacting to it.
That is interesting philosophy, and you do just have to wonder about that. And I recall certainly, several clients that was really trying to heal some vaginal irritation, and we could not get to the underlying issue of it. That in one case, the client was working towards fertility. So we were studying both vaginal secretions as well as the seminal secretions, and to look to see if there was an autoimmune component there that was affecting it. And in that case, there was. So, I think the level is deeper from there. You just have to wonder what aspect that is. It does pose a very interesting question, and it certainly is a physiologic question as well as a theologic question in a way as well. To ask, does our body know when this person otherwise isn't right for us? And that's where discernment comes in. If we're so good at lying to ourselves and just say, oh, this is for the now, this pleasure is for the now, we have to really consider that we live beyond the now. And listening to our body versus creating a numbness that we don't even know what's good for us anymore. We really have to get to peel back those layers so we can really discern what is good for us. Like from the water I'm drinking, honestly, and you seem very energetically connected to what is good, what nourishes, what's positive for your body, and in energy testing as well. What is good? Discernment. Versus, I know this isn't good for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's choice.
Right.
Absolutely. But as long as you're not fooling yourself, it's only when you think, oh, I think this will be good for me, you start getting numb to your body saying no. Sometimes it has to say heck no. And sometimes it comes with a diagnosis. And then you're like, oh, no, that wasn't good for me. And so don't allow your bodies to get numb. Start to clear that. And we go into that in sexual CPR, kind of peeling back the layers. But the discussion we've had today is, I think, really, really so crucially important. It needs to be had. It's not comfortable. And, if you felt uncomfortable, just kind of look into that and feel why you feel uncomfortable. I'm happy to address any questions or feedback too. But I think that big part is really becoming sensitive again to who we are as women, to our purposes in our life, to the love we are and the love we can radiate, and to what we give and bring forth, and what's good for us and what's not good for us. And I want every woman to really hold that space for themselves and their sisters out there and their children and, the women and the society and the communities that surround us. It starts with us, and I think, from my perspective, like we are to say that, whatever our beliefs are, right? Like I like to believe that we are all connected in one way, and it is not based on religion or denomination or race or ethnicity, It is not based on any of those, or Republican or Democrat. We are all united for one common purpose, and that is, to love one another. And that's the golden rule.
Yes. Thank you for that. Okay. Well, let's see. I have 3 last final questions before we end our call today. The first one for you is going to be, because they're sometimes a little different for everyone. What is currently at your bedside?
What is currently at my bedside? Oh, I have several books, and I have my do-it-yourself lubricant. I have to share that video with your link, but it's at julva.com. What's in my cupboard, separated by dashes. So it's my own do-it-yourself lubricant. So I think healthy lubrication is really, really important. And so that is in my bedside cupboard. And there's just a bottle of water, fresh filtered water, at my bedside.
Okay, great. And what is your biggest indulgence?
Oh, gosh. My biggest indulgence Probably, trying to think, there's this great Korean spa in Atlanta that I love to go to. So I would say that is probably my biggest indulgence, although chocolate was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Nice. And do you use any, do you use sex toys or anything like that? That was my last question.
So I would say it's my do-it-yourself lubricant. And so using that has been really wonderful. And it's basically a blend, and I show you how to make it in my video, but it's a blend of fractionated coconut oil and aloe vera gel for both healing and moisturizing properties. And so I would say that that's it. Now, as far as sex toys, I have the Lilo balls, so the weighted balls that are great. And I have a vibrator, but I would say that it is very rare that I would use it, especially when I recognized how it can numb the clitoral nerve endings and decrease the ability to have that heightened level of pleasure during intimacy. So it's in there. It's in a bottom drawer somewhere. Yes.
Okay. The Lilu balls, are they connected? I haven't used those. Are they connected, or are they single, or how do you use it?
You can use one or more. So it has a two loop where you can put one in a loop and then add a second one for additional weight. So you can do it both ways. Yeah.
And then do you just insert and sort of go by your day, or is it something that you're actually self-pleasuring with?
No, insert and then go about your day, or use it during intercourse.
Oh,
you can keep them in during intercourse.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've had this question come up about the jade egg and using it during intercourse. I haven't personally, but because it just seemed big. Are they as big as are these Lilo balls as big as a jade egg?
I haven't used a jade egg, but I think they're a little smaller.
Oh, okay.
And they're perfectly round versus egg shaped.
Oh, okay.
So that may make a difference.
Okay. And tell us how can people find you and your courses and all of that?
So at my website, be great, at drAnnaCabeca.com. So DRANNACABECA, drAnnaCabeca.com. And I have some great, free webinars and information. Then my Julva cream is at Julva, JULVA.com. Think joyful vulva.
I love that. Oh, this has been so great. I really love talking about all of this stuff. This is, you gave us a lot to think about on the, the microbiome and just the oxytocin and everything. I mean, it's just seeing sexuality and sensuality as being such really a deep sensual and also sacred practice. And I look forward to connecting, again on, maybe if we've got more questions that come along, or if you have some new products. I definitely highly advocate the Julva. It works fantastically. And I have to say that the DHEA in there definitely made a huge difference compared to just a regular, lube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's been great being here. I appreciate your openness and vulnerability and the level of depth we got to in conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Dr. Cabeca, and I hope you also will go out and get Julva. So all the information on Dr. Cabeca, her new cream, all of that will be in the show notes at margaretromero.com/episode 25. And if you have been loving this podcast, I would love it if you can leave me a review. I've been getting lots of 5-star reviews, so thank you so much for those of you that have sent in your review, loving up the podcast. Thank you. So I would love it if you would go ahead and leave a review. The more reviews I get, the more people get to listen to this podcast. So that is all for this week. Have fun, self-pleasure, have a beautiful week, and I will talk to you then. Love to you all.